Hello everyone, welcome to Good Film Hunting, a podcast about an average couple who are on the hunt for some good movies. In today's world, we are consuming more media than ever, perhaps more passively than ever. But we believe that by documenting and discussing the media we intake, how and what we intake will change for the better. It is important that we don't just become another consumer, but a participant, seeking to engage with the media we consume, so that we can see how our view of the world affects how we perceive it, and how it affects how we perceive the world. In this podcast, we are not only on the hunt for some good movies, but on the hunt for a good discussion. So, lean in, participate, and enjoy. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and puppy dogs and kitty cats. Welcome to another episode of Good Film Hunting. I am the president, founder,
and
co-host, CEO, all those lovely titles of our little podcast. And sitting beside me is the co-founder, co-CEO, co-president, etc.
Savannah.
Say that with more confidence.
Sorry, you pointed at me when I said my name. Savannah Scott.
There you go. How are you doing this evening, Miss Savannah Scott?
Good.
Well, good. I'm glad that you are good. For those listening, there was like a 5-minute pause just between when Savannah said good and I said good. This is the magic of editing, by the way, because we heard some weird animal noises outside and we were trying to decide if it was a child or an animal. And we still don't really know. We think it was an animal. We're hoping it's not a child.
That's true.
So Savannah, what are we talking about this evening?
We're talking about The Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. So we're kind of on the edge of tomorrow, aren't we? We're coming up on the edge of tomorrow.
We are.
And we are. How fun.
It's getting pretty late.
It's pretty late. Too late. If you're listening to this episode for the first time, let me give a brief breakdown of the structure of the episode. I've got a bunch of facts about the movie that I'll share with Savannah. Most of them she probably won't know. We'll share our general spoiler-free thoughts on the movie. We will share our favorite moment of the movie. We'll delve into spoilers. Savannah will give a plot recap. We'll go through our rating system where we have 4 categories that we'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5. We will share our overall rating / recommendation or not recommendation at the end. I guess endorse is what you would call it, right? Whether we endorse it or not.
Oh, yes.
And see if it makes our unofficial Good Film Hunting list. So Savannah, you ready for some facts about this movie?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's delve into it. Some facts about Edge of Tomorrow. This was released May 28th, 2014, so about when I suspected the year, all big movies came out. Mm-hmm. Some people, call it the greatest year of movies, in the last decade, because a lot of really important movies came out. Lego Movie came out that year, Interstellar, and more definitely came out that year. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. The film was directed by Doug Liman. He hasn't really directed much that we've seen. It was written by Christopher McQuarrie and a few others. Christopher McQuarrie famously did the last 3 Mission Impossible films. So he and Tom Cruise collaborate. I guess he also did some writing on Top Gun Maverick, too.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Yeah, I guess they're collaborators at this point, frequent collaborators. This movie is based on a Japanese sci-fi light novel called All You Need Is Kill.
Oh, nice.
Very interesting name.
I know.
Very interesting name. The film was distributed by Warner Brothers. It has a runtime of 113 minutes. Want to guess the box? Not the box office, the budget?
30 million.
Oh, heck no. Sorry, I said a bad word. No way. Not 30 million. Definitely not 30 million.
More or less.
More, way more.
Oh, sorry.
You saw how many special effects were.
130 million.
Much closer, but a little more. It had
170 million.
Yeah, 178 million. Sorry, I shouldn't have responded that way.
Sorry.
It had a box office of Kind of a disappointing number. Not a great return, unfortunately. Only
Really?
$307.5 million. So that's not great for an almost $200 million production budget. But it is what it is.
It's Emily Blunt. It's
Tom Cruise and
Tom
Emily
Cruise
Blunt,
and
yeah.
Emily Blunt. Two legends.
I know, right? The film was scored by Christoph Beck, who is best known for having a lot of collaborations with Disney and Marvel.
He did the live action Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, did he?
I think.
I think he might have even done the score for like Frozen, and I mean he's done a lot of their stuff, so he's kind of the go-to guy for a lot of their Disney and Marvel stuff. I guess he's just kind of
You
safe.
should fact check me and see if he did do Beauty and the Beast, because I am pretty sure he did.
Well, I'll trust you. It doesn't matter that much to me. The film obviously stars Tom Cruise as Major William Cage. He was in our review, or he starred in the movie Minority Report, which we did a review of. Stars Emily Blunt as Sergeant Rita Vertasky.
I think it was Vertasky.
Vertasky? Okay, my bad. Also as Bill Paxton as Major Sergeant Farrell. He was in Apollo 13. And then Brendan Gleeson as General Brigham, who did Mad-Eye Moody and Harry Potter. So we were right. We recognized him.
We did.
Some interesting things about development. So production for this began at Leavesden Studios near London, which Warner Brothers had purchased as a permanent studio site and had been renting the space there for the production of the Harry Potter films, which had been leaving sets there permanently for nearly a decade because of filming Harry Potter. So that I thought was interesting.
So they finally bought it?
Yeah, they finally bought it, and then, after doing Harry Potter, I think there's some parts of it they've left semi-permanent as tourist attractions at this point.
Okay.
But they're like, okay, now we have the extra space to do extra movies, and phew. Lehman, the director, intended to film the battle in the film at an actual beach location, but the studio insisted instead on having a beach set built on a studio site, which I never would have guessed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the set was obviously surrounded by a green screen and all sorts of stuff to make it seem bigger.
I feel like now that you mentioned that, I think I could totally
You could
see
tell?
that, yeah.
Okay. The film itself, or not the film, the battle scenes are obviously supposed to be very based off World War II, I cannot talk tonight. World War II battle scenes, not scenes, I guess kind of Saving Private Ryan, the invasion of Normandy is kind of inspired from that, just like all chaos, people dying left and right casually, kind of just overwhelming and chaotic.
Yeah.
The film filming took place 7 days a week, using 2 crews to film 20 days in addition to what had been originally scheduled. So it went way over budget, and they were working full time for 7 days a week with 2 crews.
Wow.
That's nuts.
I know.
It's not cool.
It's not a good day to be Tom Cruise or Emily Blunt.
I know. The crew struggled with the changeable British weather. Oh, that British weather, always interfering. And since the film was supposed to, have a certain look to it, they had to work with the weather being somewhat consistent, so that was not easy to do with. The indoor beach set also became really muddy, requiring effects artists to enhance the environment with digital sand and surf.
Oh.
I know, that's not super fun. The team created a foam mock-up of Tom Cruise, so the frame of the robot suit could be tailored for him. The team handcrafted 70 hard material and 50 soft material battle suits in the course of almost 5 months.
Wow.
There are 3 versions of the battle suits: grunts, dogs, and tanks. The battle suit for Blunt's character was given red slash marks, as if to say she had been from hell and back and lived to tell about it.
Wow.
Cruise, known for performing his own stunts, also did his own stunts in this film. Both he and Blunt wore heavy metal suits. The battle suits weighed 85 pounds on average. The heavier versions weighed around 130 pounds due to being equipped with mock sniper rifle and rocket launchers.
Oh my word.
Blunt trained 3 months for her role.
Wow. She was pretty muscular in this movie.
She was. Like, I was scared of her in some shots. Like, don't get in her bad side.
I can understand, and this never really clicked until just now, but I can understand why actors and actresses get paid so much.
They do get paid a lot. They put in a lot of
They
work.
do, like, and especially since, like, they have to change their bodies so much for each role, too, and, like, that's a lot of work. That's not easy.
At
Like,
least for, like, the really, really committed ones. Like, you've got some actors who are, like, you know, they'll just get paid a lot
like,
because
put
they're
me
a
in a
big
fat
name.
suit.
Yeah. But, like, Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt are actors who are almost always very super committed to their roles and will do whatever it takes. So there's a reason they're such big stars.
It's true.
The suits took 30 minutes to get in and out of. So an hour just to get, that's like their commute.
Wow,
Take the suit,
that's insane.
put the suit on, take the suit off. Whew. And Warner Brothers invested $100 million in advertising for this film. So
Interesting, considering I've literally never heard of it until you
I know.
mentioned it.
So I guess like they had a hard time getting it off the ground, which I think the 100 million must be in addition to the 178 million they used for production. So that's insane, and that's not a good box office return at all.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
It's kind of sad because this was a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, the critical reception, you know, it was well received by most critics and audiences for the intelligent script, well done action, the alien designs, Emily Blunt's character. Biggest controversy was probably the kiss at the end of the movie, because some people felt like it violated Emily Blunt's character, but some people felt like, you know, like you were one of those people, felt like they needed it. Mm-hmm. Sorry, that was a spoiler. I shouldn't have said that.
No.
Oops. Not a whole lot of awards for
Why
this.
do you think it was a violation of her character?
Well, we'll delve into it in writing, because I can see that perspective, and I'll show why. But yeah, not a lot of awards. Interesting award nomination I found was by the Alliance of Women Film Journalists. It was nominated for the most egregious age difference between love interests.
What? That's so weird.
I know.
What's the age difference?
I mean, Tom Cruise is probably like 50.
Isn't Emily Blunt also getting old?
No, she was probably like 30. So there was probably like a 20-year age gap at least between them for that movie.
Would it be for the character's age gap, or would it be for their actors?
The actors. A fun fact about the film, while filming the car chase scene, which includes the minivan, Emily Blunt was instructed to drive fast and then to take a right-hand turn so that the van would shake. However, Blunt missed her mark and she drove the car right into a tree. She later said that it was both hilarious and terrifying as she almost killed Tom Cruise, who was in the passenger seat, but both of them started laughing after the incident. Phew. Wow, scary.
These guys must have good life insurance.
I know. Another fun fact, Tom Cruise didn't want the exosuits to be too CGI, so it would be more real to the audience. He showed up 2 months early to research and develop the suit. So
Very committed.
Very committed. As far as goofs, nothing really worth noting. Just little minor things here and there. Those are all the facts I have, just some fun ones. People were very committed to making this movie, and they made it happen. And it's so sad that it did not get the return they needed.
I know. That is weird.
Yeah. Before we delve into spoilers or not, what are your general spoiler-free thoughts on this film? And I assume you don't have like a history, because you said you've never heard of this before.
Yeah, no, never heard of it. General thoughts, I thought it was engaging. I thought it was fun. It was a unique concept. I thought it was decently realistic, and I don't feel like, okay, the whole concept is very sci-fi and unrealistic, but like, it wasn't so much fake science that I felt overwhelmed and annoyed by it. Because I felt like there was a lot of fake science, of course, and I do kind of have a problem with that, but it was pretty easy to follow. Okay. For the most part. Like, it didn't take away from my enjoyment because it was hard to understand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what would be an example of like a fake science that's just so complicated?
Tenet.
Okay.
And, like, there's just so much fake science. Even what's it called? Inception, also.
Okay.
Christopher Nolan loves his fake science. And it's
Right.
probably my least favorite part of him, of his directing.
So even though like the fake science in a sense has a certain set of rules that's very set in place as if it is realistic, whereas this one it doesn't so much, like I guess the concept of this one's easier to grasp. Like,
Yeah. It just was more simple. And, like, I think the story was more engaging to me
okay.
than, like, Tenet, which was very, like, boring to me. Inception was engaging, but, like, this movie was engaging, so it was, pretty easy to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. As far as my general spoiler-free thoughts go, like this is a film I've wanted to see for a while because I've heard about it for a long time and I know that people really like it. And I knew it had a similar premise to Groundhog Day, except, it's a little more of a puzzle film in a sense. Like there's characters trying to figure out how to achieve a certain goal to save the world, whereas in Groundhog Day it was this guy, halfway through the film he's trying to get someone to fall in love with him.
We should watch Groundhog Day during the holiday season.
We should. It's a good one. And I knew there were obviously aliens, so there's that twist on it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was well made, well executed, and well acted. I was invested in the story from pretty much beginning to end. Or maybe not as much so much as just when the loop started happening, I became really invested. It was much funnier than I anticipated it going to be. It was suspenseful at times. It managed to keep me entertained in spite of it being a repeated plot or repeated events because they managed to kind of get creative with how they presented that. So there were moments where like, oh, has this happened or has it not happened? I don't know. It's definitely not perfect, and I do have some gripes with some narrative choices they made, which I'm sure we'll delve into. But I had a good time. I knew it. I had a feeling I'd have a good time, but I think the biggest surprise was it was more comedic than I anticipated it being. Did you have a favorite moment of the film?
I can't think of one that jumps out at me. There were a couple funny moments, but I can't think of something specific.
My favorite moment is when Tom Cruise is trying to get away to find Rita's character, and he tries to do that cool stunt move where he rolls under the truck, but he gets hit by the truck
and dies.
But it's such like a out of the blue thing that makes perfect sense and is so stupid but so funny, because like, oh, he's gonna roll under to get away, but then like there's the beat of where he like yelps. And then the sergeant walks over and goes, "What were you thinking?"
That was funny.
It was just so shocking, but like it made sense.
Yeah.
So that was funny.
I did like that part.
That was funny. Are you ready for a 5-minute plot recap?
Oh, I forgot about that. Sure.
Forgot about that. I mentioned we were doing it at the beginning of the episode.
Oh well.
Oh well. So this is officially spoiler-filled territory. I mean, I might have spoiled something towards the beginning. Oops. But now we're really delving into spoilers. So if you want to see this movie and don't want it spoiled, you've been warned. So Savannah, tell us about the plot.
So we're introduced to the guy, the main character, whose name is eluding me.
William Cage.
William Cage. Is he Sergeant?
Major.
Major Cage. And he is talking to this guy who, what was him?
The general.
The general. And the general, and so William Cage is kind of like a desk job guy. Like he doesn't really do anything in the field. But he gets told that he's going to go into combat. And he's very resistant to that. So he kind of gets like kidnapped, low-key, and kind of thrown into brought to the base for one of the battles against the mimics, which are a alien that's taking over the world. And so he gets taken to the space, and he kind of goes through the motions of being there. He gets yelled at a lot, and then they bring him to the barracks, and he's there with the other. He meets the a couple of
J
people,
Squad.
the J Squad, which ends up being, some side characters of little importance, but kind of come into play towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then he, gets suited up for battle, I guess, the next day, because there's going to be a big battle. He gets on the aircraft carrier. No, not the aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm. Well, not aircraft carrier. It's some sort of
aircraft.
flying
Yeah,
aircraft.
Anyway, he gets up there, gets dropped into battle, has this battle. They're fighting the aliens. A bunch of his teammates get killed. Drama and trauma ensues. Lots of death, lots of sand spewing everywhere. He kills one of the aliens that's blue and glowy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it dies, or some of its blood gets on him, and this creepy moment happens where he gets, killed and stuff. But then he awakens after he dies in the exact same position he was in when he first got to the military base.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, wait, I'm not dead. What's going on? And so he comes to realize that he is just reliving the same day over and over again until he dies. Or, each time he dies, the day resets.
Mm-hmm.
Starting in that moment. So he does that a couple times. And then as he's in battle, he runs into this lady who is the poster child for the war efforts, basically. She's kind of like Rosie the Riveter, except in this post-apocalyptic world. And he runs into her, and she's like, next time this happens to you, or next time you wake up, come find me. And so he wakes up, he comes and finds her. He finds out that she also had experienced this thing where she keeps resetting. And they find out that it's because of the certain alien that they kill, which is the Omega.
Alpha.
No, the Alpha.
Yeah.
And they kill this alien, and then when it dies, the killer of the alien has to relive their day over and over again. And to me, it's kind of unclear exactly what's going on because I'm dumb and I don't follow fake science very well. But it's like this plot that the Omega, who's the lead or the mother of all the aliens.
Yeah, the mothership, so to speak.
Kind of has to kind of confuse them and lead them away from them or towards them so the main one, the Omega, can kill them.
Yeah, it's trying to manipulate them and set them up.
Yeah, so he finds out that he has this is the mission, so he starts kind of practicing, and Rita, the lady, really wants him to do it because she has a personal vendetta against the aliens because they were responsible for the death of her guy that she loved.
Which she watched him die how many times?
300 times or something.
Yeah.
So very traumatizing. And so as he trains with her and we keep getting a montage of repeated days, he starts getting visions of where this thing is. So he, with Rita, they start making their way to go find the Omega, but they end up getting to the place they think it is, and it's not actually there. And so they have to start over from the beginning again, and it's basically them figuring out what to do, and then eventually they find out that it's in this building in France. I don't remember what it's called, but they find it. Lots of tension and action ensue. There's a kiss. Then they kill the Omega. The war ends. He gets killed. William Cage gets killed. But he wakes up again. But this time...
So you forgot to mention that he loses the power.
But he loses the power.
Yeah, he loses it during the last third of it.
Okay, yeah. He loses the power, but then he gets killed. For some reason, doesn't actually die, and then he wakes up.
He killed an alpha or something right before he died.
Yeah, and then he wakes up before, in the time zone of him about to leave for the base that he was at. And then he gets there. Rita's gone, but he gets to the base and he sees her again. And he smiles at her. And then that's the end of the movie.
You got a little discombobulated there towards the end.
I did, sorry.
There are a lot of moving parts.
It's true.
A lot of moving parts. So there you go. There you have it. We'll kind of delve into more specific aspects of the plot as we go along in the actual rating system. So Savannah, you ready to rate this film?
Yes.
All right, so we've got 4 categories we'll rate this film on. We've got entertainment, production quality, writing and content. Savannah, on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this film for just overall entertainment?
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
It was good. It was entertaining. It was funny. There were good elements of action, but like not too much action, and humor, and kind of a mystery where you're trying to like, ooh, what's gonna happen? A little bit of romantic tension.
Ever so slightly.
Ever so slightly. Not very much. It was not a central plot to the story.
No. Well, it was a central part to his story. It was one-sided.
It was.
It was one-sided.
But like, even so with him, it wasn't super like obvious that he liked her.
Well, this is going into writing, but there's that whole scene with the helicopter, remember?
Oh yeah. That's true, where he doesn't
yeah.
want her to get hurt.
Yeah.
And her killed, because he sees her getting killed multiple times.
Yeah.
It's just traumatizing for him. Okay, that's true. But it's not overly sappy.
Yeah.
I thought that the main characters were really likable, and I rooted for them. No one else was particularly, like, I was not committed or anything to any of the other side characters. I thought they were kind of dumb and useless for the most part. Yeah, 4. It was good. It was entertaining.
There you go. I kind of teeter between a 4 and a 5. I'll probably just give it a 5. I think the most boring part for me was the beginning and maybe the ending. The beginning, just because, not the very beginning. The very beginning was interesting. Up until when he gets essentially arrested for blackmailing the general. After that, where he's being introduced to the J Squad, and you've got the sergeant. Like, that was humorous just because the sergeant was just such a character. He was always super smiley, and it's like, you're really off-putting, but okay. And then the ending, just certain things about the plot I wasn't a huge fan of. But, like, that's... Even then, like, I still enjoyed it. I just wasn't gripped the same way I was throughout the rest of it.
Yeah, I thought at the beginning I got bored by, because I remembered it almost verbatim from
the first time
we watched
watch
it like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh,
It's memorable.
it's true.
But yeah, it's a slow-paced movie to start, and then it builds. So, like, it starts slowly, and then it starts building, and then it gets faster and faster and faster as everything falls into place. Once again, lots of comedic beats that help elevate... Or, sorry, not elevate, relieve the tension, but also they're just funny gags because Tom Cruise's character, William Cage, is such a coward, and just the things he tries to do to get out of harm's way at times is so absurd or silly. And then, you know, it never works out well for him, obviously. I thought the pacing was good, and they definitely took good moments to rest from the action, but also still keep you gripped in the story. And then there was always a twist you never saw coming, or maybe you could see coming, but like it always gripped you to the point where, like, oh, it's not working out like I thought. Like, he's been here, he's done this, even though they're not playing it like that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a montage.
Yeah, I thought I also wanted to add about the vibes of the movie too. That it reminded me, and this is kind of not that necessary of an information, but it reminded me a lot of a mixture of Planet of the Apes and A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
The vibes of the movie.
That's fair.
It just made me feel the same way they did.
Just like, this is bad vibes, but not like so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That...
Yeah, especially the scene in the trailer park with the cars and they're trying to escape. For some reason, that was like really A Quiet Place, Planet of the Apes vibes.
Yeah, it's like, be quiet, don't let the aliens hear you, kind of thing. Yeah. It's so sad you'll never watch A Quiet Place again. I'd love to do reviews on those with you.
I know. I can't do it.
They're scary, and they've got babies, so like...
They do. I'm not a jump scare girly.
Well, that's the thing. They're not jump scare movies. They're drawn out tension. But...
Yeah, but then there is, like, okay, yeah, I guess that's true. Just drawn out tension. I just don't like that.
That's fair. Okay. So, 4 or 5. What would you give this for overall production quality, which includes the design of the characters, the aliens in this case, the CGI, the acting, editing, etc.?
Probably 4 also.
Okay.
This movie had a certain syndrome that I've noticed in movies sometimes.
Okay.
And Interstellar has this too. And I don't know how to explain it other than that it feels like the movie is underneath like a glass dome.
Interesting.
It's like inside of a glass dome.
Uh-huh.
And like I can't feel the rest. Like I can't imagine its place in the universe, in the real world. It just is like in a dome.
Okay.
A glass dome.
So, like, it's within this dome, but, like, aside from what you're shown on screen, you can't picture the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Even though this is a very global film in a sense.
Yeah, and so I feel that way about this movie. I feel that way about Interstellar, which is ironic considering it's in space for most of the time. Also, yeah, I don't really know how to describe it, like, or how to explain why I feel that way about it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's that's how this movie is for me.
Okay.
But other than that, I thought the videography was good. I thought the sets and costumes were pretty good. The beach I didn't really love. It was very weird. It was like very flat, and it did very much seem like a set. Like after you said that, I can totally see how it would feel that way. But
You have a better eye for that than I do.
maybe I don't know. I just was, yeah. So other than that, though, I thought it was pretty good. Would we talk about acting and production quality?
Yeah.
Okay. I did not like the acting of most of the side characters. They were pretty cringe.
Nope.
Especially the woman, what her name was.
I don't remember her name.
In the team.
They were just very generic, stereotype military people.
Yeah. So, didn't love that. But the rest of it was good.
Yeah.
I liked the design of the aliens. They almost seemed endearing. Like,
Interesting.
they seemed kind of cute to me. I don't know. Like, they weren't really scary.
They're kind of like fish. Like, their faces are made like a fish.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound scary, but...
No, they weren't particularly scary, in my opinion. Like, there wasn't really a whole lot of tension with them either. Other than, like, a little bit with the barn and the helicopter and then the trailer park. But I wasn't really scared of them.
Right.
Unlike A Quiet Place. I thought the name choice for them made no sense.
Mimics?
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of awkward sounding.
I like
Like, it just
I
doesn't
like
flow
how it
off the
sounds.
tongue.
I'm curious to know about the naming, why they named them that.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I feel like if it was a movie where the bad guys, like, took the form of something else, that would make sense why it would be called that.
Mimic,
but, like, it
yeah.
just didn't make any sense to me.
That's a good point, actually. I wonder what the deeper meaning is behind that. I think I agree as far as rating for production quality goes. I'd give it a 4. I'm going to start by saying it right off the bat. I thought the suits were kind of dumb.
They didn't really add anything.
They didn't. They were just big and clunky, and they walked awkwardly in them, and they didn't really feel like they'd be any good. Like, the only good things they did was they helped you shoot guns, I guess, from your fists, and they had, like, rocket launchers in the back. But, like, half the time, I felt the suits were getting in the way anyway. So it's like, there had to be a smarter way to do this, but whatever. So I wasn't a fan. But it's impressive that they chose to build them all. Not all of them, but a lot of them practically, and go that route. Like, kudos to them for doing that and committing to it at least.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that everything was well-made. The beach, even though you said it feels like a set, I can't say that I noticed that. I felt that the scene itself on the beach, of it just feeling chaotic and disjointed and overwhelming, was well done. Like, you felt that there's no chance for these humans whatsoever because of the way everything was falling apart for them.
Yeah, and I was about the beach. I feel like maybe I thought it felt more set-like to me was because it didn't really strike me as a beach. Like, if you didn't say it was a beach, I would never have thought it was a beach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it looks just like a desert, like a flat desert, because there's no visible water.
Well, Tom Cruise fell in the water to begin with. They're going inland, so it's never going to focus on the water. But whatever. I guess it did feel a little large for a beach, maybe. The film had a very gritty feel to it, which I liked. I thought they did that well. The CGI, there was a lot of it, but I felt like it wasn't out of place. The aliens, you kind of have to do CG. The suits, as much as they could do practically, you have to do CG at a certain point. The aliens were, to speak on those designs, they were a very interesting design that I've never seen before. They weren't like scary in the sense of, they weren't like creepy, but they were terrifying in the sense of like, oh yeah, if these things invaded Earth, we wouldn't stand a chance against them because they are so fast and overwhelming. And they're like tentacle-like, but not tentacle-like, and it's just weird. They were a very interesting design. But I liked how they chose to make it very simple in the fact that there was like, most of them were kind of orange, but then like the alphas were blue. But that was like all you got. So you didn't get like an overwhelming amount of alien designs and types, which I think is a temptation that most people would fall into when it comes to designing monsters or things like that. So they just kept it very simple and straightforward. But they designed the ones they had very well.
They did. Yeah, we didn't really see mass quantities of them at any time either.
It's true. That's a good point, actually. And they also just had like a lack of noise at times, which I thought was interesting. Like they were noisy sometimes, but sometimes they were like completely quiet, which I thought was really weird. Like they didn't snarl and growl like you'd expect them to.
They kind of just floated and moved their mouths, so maybe they were fish.
Maybe they were fish. I don't know. And they're also, yeah, like I mentioned, there just weren't too many aliens. Like the aliens were the things driving the plot, but they weren't the center of the story. So it's not like they overwhelmed the scene or the screen. They moved it along and they were a threat, but they didn't draw our attention away from the main characters, which I appreciated that. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was well done. Everything was well done, and there were some things that were better done, but I can't say there was anything that like stood out as being like phenomenal. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, they're both good actors. We've established this. Tom Cruise always does a very flustered character very well. This is the first time we've seen him in a film where he's playing a character who doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I have really much to comment. They were probably the only yeah, I agree. They were the only characters I really loved, aside from maybe the sergeant. He wasn't a nice guy, but he was just so weird that like I have a love-hate relationship with you.
Yeah.
Like I don't like you, but like you've got so many quirks. I'm like, okay, it's a choice, I guess. Okay. What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 5 for writing, which includes plot, character development, dialogue?
3.5 to 4.
Okay.
There are a couple things I feel like I could think of that were a little weird. And of course, now that I'm trying to think of them, I can't. But I'll probably let you just talk about it because I know you have a lot of notes. But I'm just going to say I'll rate it before.
Not me. Well, I can, if you like want to stop me at any point.
Yeah, I'll just interject if you jog my memory.
Okay. I gave this a 4. I mean, I wanted to give it a 5. Like, I wish I could give it a 5 because the concept's cool, but there are several things holding it back. And Groundhog Day, we gave it a 4. I remember primarily because the biggest thing holding it back was a certain aspect of the ending, whereas this one I think has a little more sense than Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day was a lot more simple and straightforward. This one, there's a lot of clever things, but I also thought there were a lot of lazy decisions they made at the same time.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Roasted.
I know. Coming from me, the armchair quarterback.
It's true.
But yeah, the biggest compliment I can give it is that the characters are likable. Well, the main characters are likable and believable. They have good chemistry. It's just fun to see them interact with the world and see them try and problem solve together. And you've got Emily Blunt's character who's very, this is the way things are done. Go for it. But also, isn't like stereotypical strong female lead in the sense of like there's no deeper character to her. Like you get moments of it. Tom Cruise character being, you know, kind of a coward, but growing into his bravery more, especially, I mean, it's kind of corny, but, you know, as he kind of comes to care for Rita's character, and you start to understand, you know, he's watching her die again and again and again and again and again, and it's kind of scaring him to see that.
Yeah.
I like how they took moments to train him, and they have so many moments where he is beaten down. Like the training took forever in this movie, which is so unusual because I feel like it's usually so fast, but they beat him up really bad again and again and again and again.
I know, didn't he get a broken back?
So he broke every part of his body during every training. And there was a moment where he like gave up, but then he realized, you know, they lose the war, so he has to go back and win. And then he starts making progress. And then also I like the moment where they take moments, or I like how they take moments, as I've established before, where there are montage scenes where it's like, okay, things are repeating again and again and again, but then they take moments to kind of play the plot linearly in the sense of, okay, have they been here before? Have they not? Is this new territory? Or because then sometimes there's a reveal later on. So there's some heartbreaking scenes in that sense, like the whole helicopter scene where Rita's like, how many times have we been here? And William's like, well, blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to avoid the questions. Like, we've tried this so many times in every scenario, the same thing happens, and I can't figure a way around it, except for the time where you stay behind. But of course, she's not going to do that because that's not her character. And that's kind of a heartbreaking moment. It's like, what are you supposed to do in that scenario? Yeah, I think those are all the points. So I've got four points I've written down, and most of them criticisms. So the first point is, because when a character is in a time loop, I feel that they can be more realistic with the situations. Like characters dying casually in battle or silly things, like that's realistic. Like, oh, I didn't see that alien there. Oh, I got shot by this thing. Like, it's very realistic, and they have comedic beats where Tom Cruise
realistic to be shot by an alien.
No. I mean, like the probability, right? You know, our main character, oh, he survived the battle because he's the main character. Like, they don't do that because of the main characters. And there are comedic beats where Tom Cruise's character is trying to save other characters, but like he doesn't do it the right way, and then he ends up getting blasted or whatever. But that's all realistic, and it's funny, and it makes sense. But they choose, you know, towards the end of the film to make him lose his power, because Rita's character sets up, hey, I had this power, that's why I believe you, but I lost it because I didn't die, and they gave me a blood transfusion. I lost it. Same thing happens to William. And then they fall into the trap where, because they're the main character and they've got to get to the end and against all hope, you know, they're surviving scenarios that they wouldn't have survived if they were in this time loop anymore. Because the suspension of disbelief has to be added so that they can win the day. They do die at the end, which, you know, whatever. But it kind of made me less invested.
They die at the end, but then come back to life.
Yeah. Or do they? I don't know. I'm still confused about that. So I didn't love that. Side characters, not necessary. It's so boring, so generic. Couldn't keep track of them all. They all sounded exactly the same.
I know.
They like treated me like I was supposed to know them, like my comrades, and like Tom Cruise's character knew them super well, but like we didn't know them as an audience. It was just weird. And then they had him at the end where they killed them off anyway. And I was like, what was the point of that?
I know.
Like, there is no need for them to be in this plot. And like, oh no, this guy sacrificed himself. I didn't know who he was at all. How sad.
No, all I know is that he's kind of gross and plays poker against the rules. So
That's true. Yeah, I don't love that. The ending was kind of weird and confusing, because Tom Cruise saves the day, but he killed an alpha right before he did. So he's going to come back to life in a time loop. He wakes up, hey, we won the war, woohoo. Would that happen if you were in a time loop, or would it be like, oh man, we won that war, and I'm stuck in a time loop where we didn't?
Yeah, that is interesting.
But also, like, why did he reset there and not where he reset earlier? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's just, the ending was just weird and stretched and didn't make any sense.
I think
to
that's where
me.
the fake science comes in. I'm sure if you did a deep dive on Google, you could find out.
Probably, but I didn't love it. It was too confusing for me to be satisfied with. And here comes the aspect about the kissing. So Rita's character, every time Tom Cruise is in this time loop, gets introduced to him for the first time. Tom Cruise has to explain to her, hey, we've been through this before 100 times. So, like, I know you, you don't know me. Let's just go through the motions. Like, get me to this point and just start me now so I can continue training, whatever. But I feel that maybe they kind of play it to where Rita becomes a little too comfortable with him too quickly, especially towards the end. They treat it like she's been with him this entire film and has known him. But realistically, she wouldn't, because she would have only just met him.
Yeah.
So the kiss, like, she hasn't even known him for a full day.
That's actually a good point.
So it just felt kind of weird and out of place. And they did it because, as the audience, like, we felt like we needed something more because our brains couldn't wrap around the fact that they only just met.
Yeah.
So, like, emotionally, maybe it was satisfying, but logically, it made no sense for the character.
That's actually
Like, she
true.
wouldn't have done that. So I can get that criticism.
Yeah, I actually I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So there's that. And yeah, there's a lot of good, but also too many things in there that I just felt could have been done better. But not bad or overall. Some bad or not well done things. Did you have anything to comment, or?
Not really. I think you pretty much touched on all of the points.
Okay. This is just me talking at you at this point.
I know. Sorry, I'm really tired.
All right, well, let's delve into our last category, content. Well, we'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, as like all the others. Content includes the more negative aspects, elements of the story, sexual content, language, violence, weighed against the overall story they're telling. The more positive aspects, does it have a place? Is it out of place? Is it offensive? Savannah, what were your thoughts? Where would you rate it and why?
Well, it's definitely not the most wholesome of movies.
No,
Specifically in regards to language
for sure.
and just crudeness. And there's like a couple innuendos, I feel like.
Maybe a couple.
It's very, like, par for the course for military life, I would assume.
Right.
So, not like anything crazy out of place, but definitely a little less wholesome than I would want it to be.
That's fair.
Like, I wouldn't want, like, my kids necessarily watching it. As far as sexual content, other than the innuendos that I think were there was nothing between the two main characters, other than the kiss, which wasn't really anything. She just kissed him. It was a good kiss, but, like, it wasn't even that scandalous. It was just, like, you could tell she
Like,
had a lot
we're
of...
gonna die. Let me
Yeah,
kiss you.
yeah. Oh, we like those kind of kisses. Not too much scary violence.
Yeah, it was blood-free
Yeah.
for the most. There was some blood, but not
Yeah,
much.
it was pretty chill. So I would say the biggest thing was just the crude language and just the language in general and the
Right.
innuendos and stuff.
Right. That's fair. Let me talk about it, and then maybe I'll rate it. I do agree. There's a bit much language for my liking, but I do agree it didn't necessarily feel out of place because of the military context and the type of people they were. I didn't feel the characters were necessary, which is why I don't feel. Which why I'm conflicted about the language. Like, if the characters were there playing an important role, then whatever. But they weren't necessary, and there's also this language, so it's realistic in a sense, but the characters aren't necessary, so there's that conflict there. The violence was fine. It wasn't over the top or gory. So, and it fit for the context of the story. You know, they're fighting aliens, so that I don't have an issue with that. The couple of jokes about Tom Cruise dying, which unlike Stardust, which we reviewed, where the villain killed characters and it was supposed to be played as a joke, and that bothered me. This one, they don't necessarily devalue human life, and also Tom Cruise is coming back, so like there's a little bit of leeway that can be had there.
Yeah.
Where they're not over the top, but it's like, oh, that was a dumb mistake that anybody would have made. He'll just learn next time.
Yeah.
So they were funny without being insulting to humanity.
No, I didn't think so.
The biggest offense to me, aside from the language, was the naked man in the suit.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Ew.
Like,
yeah, that was gross.
not necessary. Character wasn't necessary. He added nothing. He was just supposed to be a comedic beat, but like it was just uncomfortable, and you kind of like caught a glimpse of his butt in one scene. So,
I totally forgot about that. That was gross.
Whatever. It's like such a small thing. There's that one scene where Tom Cruise asks Emily Blunt's character about
Oh, yes, I remember
sex
that.
as a blood transfusion, which I thought was perfectly in place with his character.
Not as a blood transfusion. It's like finding a way to like transfer the powers.
Yeah. Oh, kind of blood transfusion. Like, it's just something to
It's true.
exchange. I mean, to me, that made perfect sense for his character. Like, he's trying to find ways out of this. He kind of likes Rita. He's like, so have you, like, tried everything? So that he's trying to get out of this. And, Rita's not having it. It's like, actually, yes, I have tried this. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of awkward,
know.
but, like, I feel like it's not out of place.
No, it wasn't too tasteless. It was
No,
fine.
it felt appropriate for the characters, and it wasn't like super crude or anything. So, do I give it a 3 or a 4?
I feel like a 3 is appropriate.
Do you think? Because I'm trying to think of the audience. I'd be okay, like the kids, not kids. Like, I feel like middle to older teenagers would probably be fine. What do you think? Do you feel like that'd be appropriate? I mean, you've got to know the individual kid, obviously. But, like, there's some language, but I kind of lean towards 4. I think if it were going to be 3, our main characters used more language. Because they didn't use a whole lot. They used some.
No.
But they were fine. And they were decent characters. Like,
Yeah.
Tom Cruise became a better person. So I think I'd give it a 4 because of that. If they were not so morally great characters and use language, then I'd probably knock it down and pick to 3.
Yeah.
And a 2 would be as if they started putting in things that were like really offensive to me.
Yeah.
So I think I'm comfortable giving it a 4.
Okay.
You can disagree.
Yeah,
You're allowed to
I'd
disagree.
probably just give it like a 3. That
Okay,
seemed
do
safe
it.
to me.
Give it a 3.
Middle ground.
Middle ground, you're more than welcome to. It's your decision. All right, well, we are at the end. What is your overall synopsis? Do you recommend this? Does it get to join our good film hunting list?
I would give it a 4.
Okay.
I would say I would recommend it in the sense that I'd be like, oh, that was an interesting movie, you should watch it. I wouldn't be like, hey, have you heard of The Tomorrow War?
It's not the
Or,
Tomorrow War.
Sorry, not The
Different
Tomorrow
movie,
War. I always do
different
that in my
movie.
head, sorry.
Chris Pratt.
What is this one
Edge of
called?
Tomorrow.
Okay, Edge of Tomorrow. Have you heard of Edge of Tomorrow? Great movie, you should go watch it. I would probably like not do that, but if it came up in conversation, I'd say, sure, you should watch it. And I think it, I'm kind of torn if I should think it should go on the list, but I
Okay.
think it should.
What is the thing that makes you make that final decision?
The storyline is just not quite as complex and deep as like some of the other storylines we like. But it's a fun movie. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good action movie. Like, I would put it on par with Mission Impossible movies as far as my enjoyment, although I think I might like them better.
Yeah,
better.
you're probably, based on your immediate responses.
Yeah, but I think it belongs on the list.
Yeah, I'd give it a 4 as well. Fun time, enjoyed it. Was well crafted from a production quality standpoint. even if they didn't always make the best decisions when it came to plot conflicts and whatnot and conveniences. I would recommend it over most of the movies we've seen recently.
True.
I can't say that it'd be like my all-time list of like, you have to see this. I agree with that. But if people were like, hey, what's like a good movie that's, I haven't seen, it's maybe a little different than usual, I'd be like, oh, Edge of Tomorrow is interesting. It's fun. Takes like a premise, aliens taking over the world premise, combines it with Groundhog Day. If you like those two, you'll sure to love this one. The movie wasn't like super impactful per se,
No.
but it's a little more thought-provoking. Not as much as Groundhog Day, but I think just having the puzzle element of, okay, well, we're stuck in this scenario. We've got to beat these aliens because they've already been determined to win. How are we going to do this? So I think it's just, for the most part, it's good storytelling, but it's not like it would necessarily be high on the list.
Yeah.
So, but I would be fine adding it to our, collection and watching it once in a while. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go. That was our take on Edge of Tomorrow. Let us know what you thought about the movie in the comments. Let us know how we did on our rating system. Do you agree? Do you disagree? We hope that we've been inspiring you to have more conversations around the movies you're watching. And until next time, good film hunting.